Morning and welcome to Morning Gospel Fuel with Mr. G. It is Friday, April 29th, the second Friday of Easter and the feast day of St. Catherine of Siena. Very popular saint. She was a virgin and doctor of the church, one of the female doctors of the church. I don't know, but she had a play in returning the papacy, the Pope, back to Rome. But she was also a mystic, a spiritual writer. You always hear about St. Catherine of Siena here at the seminary. I don't know honestly much about her, but I do know that she had a big influence in theology and the spiritual life. And she did bear the stigmata, the wounds of Jesus on her hands, and her feet, the five wounds of Jesus. So Pope Pius the Ninth declared her to be the co-patron of Rome, which is a huge distinction. A co-patroness of Rome. Then Pope Pius XII named her the patron saint of Italy, along with Saint Francis of Assisi. And then in 1999, Pope John Paul II made her one of Europe's patron saints. And then she's also historically the patron saint of the Catholic American women's fraternity, Theta Phi Alpha. But the fact that three different popes declared major countries and cities as her the patron saint just comes to show how much of a role and impact she had on the history of the church and the spiritual life. So that is St. Catherine of Siena. Today's gospel is from John chapter 6, verses 1 through 15. Let's begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen. After this, Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee of Tiberias. A large crowd followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish feast of Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes, he saw that a large crowd was coming to him. He said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for them to eat?" He said this to test him, because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each of them to have even a little bit. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what good are these for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in that place, so the men reclined, about 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were reclining, and also as much of the fish as they wanted. When they had had their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the fragments left over, so that nothing will be wasted." So they collected them and filled 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves that had been more than they could eat. When the people saw the sign he had done, they said, "This is truly the prophet, the one who is to come into the world." Since Jesus knew that they were going to come and carry him off to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain alone. Okay, so we've got the multiplication of the loaves, and if you put yourself in this scene, really in much of the Gospels, and if you, like all the miracles that took place, I think how often do we fall into the trap of we've heard this gospel before, the multiplication of the loaves, the healing of the sick, the raising of Lazarus, like all these unique stories and realities that took place in the time of Jesus. And how much do we just kind of, take it for granted of okay, we know that story, but do we really sit and reflect about it and what is truly taking place right now? We have thousands of people, 5,000 men. That doesn't even include their wives and children. And Jesus just literally multiplied. What was it? 5 loaves and 2 fish. So that there were 12 wicker baskets left over. That people had their fill and had plenty to eat. Can we just fathom that? And just if we were there, how we would react then in comparison to now, whenever we've heard the story before. Because the miracle that took place then is the same miracle that takes place now. And the way that we react to it with faith should be the same level of seriousness, I guess. And so, how is it with you? And again, Jesus took this out of a boy. I think we can't just ignore the boy here. Like, Jesus did this from just this random boy in the scene who was carrying around 5 loaves and 2 fish. And evidently there was some sort of encounter that took place where Andrew or Simon Peter asked this boy for the loaves to give to Jesus, to let Jesus do his thing. So like, this boy had a role in the story too. And like, what do we bring to Jesus? That Jesus can take and multiply and bear fruit for not only us but everybody else. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. So what is it? How do we reflect and make sure that the level of impact that Jesus had while he was here on earth is the same as what it is whenever we're here right now, over 2,000 years later? That's the challenge. And so yeah, there we go. I also find it very interesting that towards the very end, like, they wanted to carry him off to make him king. So Jesus withdrew. Like, the type of king meant like the king of heaven and earth, but the kingship of which they were going to completely destroy and beat and scourge Jesus and hang him on the cross. That's what John is referencing to at the bottom of this, at the end of this gospel. So, might not seem fair, but it's what saved us. Have a great day. God bless. Keep it real. In the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen.